Hello and welcome to Pest Perspectives episode number 42, not number 43 like it says on all the feeds. A couple of weeks break because I couldn't do it last week, but I basically, I guess, couldn't make it, so it doesn't matter. You know, you've had 41 episodes this year. You've had 2 podcasts a week sometimes, so there's plenty there for you to catch up on. But this week, for episode 42, I have George Jolliffe from G&L Recruitment Consultants. How you doing, George?
Very well, thank you, Sean. Thank you very much for having me. I've been following your journey with this for some time, so it's very nice to be here. Thank you.
No, cheers. It's good to have you on because obviously in pest control, it's obviously I run a company. I've never had to employ someone yet, maybe in the future, but I just thought it might be a good way of talking to you, so other business owners or people that are looking to get a job. It's a career in pest control. If that you could help with ways to help them get into the industry, or ways to make, help companies find the best technicians, because some of the adverts I read out there.
Yes.
Work clothes, benefit.
I think it's challenging, Sean. It's challenging on both sides in respect to the fact that for companies who are looking to grow, finding and attracting and retaining the team members to support that growth is challenging in general, and particularly challenging in pest control at the moment, due to the fact that there's quite an acute imbalance in terms of supply and demand of technicians who know what they're doing, really. So what I mean by that is there's significantly more jobs open in general than there are people in general who meet those levels of experience and qualifications, etc. So for employers, it's quite a difficult landscape to navigate excuse me, in terms of identifying and attracting the people they need. And for people that are looking to either further their career in the industry or even get into the industry, it's challenging for them to find the right positions that are going to be well suited to them, because again, it's very case by case for each person. So for 2 different individuals, the best route forward for their career is likely to be at two different companies. So it's not really a one size fits all approach to that. So in terms of the job that I do day to day on both sides, really it's helping the companies to find and attract the people that they need to support their success and growth as businesses, and for the people themselves to ultimately to be looking at it on the basis of what they want as a person and what their motivations and goals are, and then establishing where would fit in with that. So a tricky landscape to navigate. And then you throw in the fact that for job seekers, a lot of information that they'll see about jobs and adverts, etc., might not be all that informative, because it might be just some of the commonplace job description stuff, and everyone knows what a technician would be doing within that role, but it's not necessarily furnishing that person with masses of information to decide on where's best for them to work at. So good fun and quite interesting, varied day to day.
I thought it is. It's like something I know nothing about. That's why I got you on. Good evening, Jasmine. Thanks for popping in. But yeah, I'll tell you what we should start with, because we mentioned how complex it is. So what's the recruitment industry like in general? Because I read a lot on LinkedIn. I'm not on about the pest control industry, about a lot of jobs abroad. I reckon there's recruitment agencies that actually put jobs out there that don't actually exist, just to get you on the books and stuff. It's a bit roguey, that is. You know,
Yeah.
there's no job actually there, but someone's applying thinking there's a job. It's
yes. So, I mean, there's a few points to unpack there. There is a concern around scams and fraudsters online.
Okay.
And I think that relates to, it often seems to relate to fraudsters who are offering a job, often to international applicants, that doesn't actually exist for the purposes of fraudulent activity. So that is something to watch out for. To be honest, it's generally fairly easy to spot if people are asking for information that there'd be no need for them to have around personal details, etc.
I read one recently where I look at a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and apparently it was a red flag. This person told this lady she makes resumes.
Yeah.
He messaged her and said something ain't right here, and she said, "Well, what's up?" It was basically, your resume is not in the right format. Pay £400 for this company to get it in the correct format for our system.
Yeah,
it was a scam, basically.
Yeah, I've heard of all that sort of thing. So, I mean, just to keep things very simple in terms of the kind of ethics that I encourage and how we operate. So, there's no charge to any job seeker ever at all, full stop. Ultimately, the fees are paid by the hiring companies. So it's often businesses where perhaps they don't really have the year-round need to employ somebody within their HR function or operations function to do the recruitment side of things. So we'll work for them as required, case by case. Recruitment as an industry, I think. So I never intended to get into recruitment. I went for a job interview when I was, I think, 21. And the person who was interviewing me, I wasn't really that interested in the job that they were offering, but what they were doing was really interesting, and got into it from there without really much kind of planning. It wasn't a career that I'd looked at through school, etc., and decided to go for. And 13 years later, still at it now. So I've learned a lot along the way. I think it's not an industry that has the best reputation. I think it's kind of up there with secondhand car salesmen in terms of the public's perception of recruitment in general. As an industry, I think there are probably, like any industry, different types of operators within that, and some of whom are quite salesy and pushy, and some of whom are quite more of a consultant rather than a salesperson, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, it's just it's not something I've ever had to deal with. I just read a lot of stuff on. I know it's obviously a big concern in the pest management industry for lack of people, or people retiring in
That's
X amount
right.
of years.
That's right. So I think in the UK and Pest at the moment, I think we've got something in around 8,000 technicians in the UK, 7,000 to 8,000. I think something are in and around half of those people are self-employed owner operators, which by my reckoning leaves a pool of excuse me, perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 techs.
Wow, that's a lot
in the UK. Yeah, but that's across pest control, bird proofing, falconry, different specialist roles within that. But that's probably the sort of pool we've got in the UK, and it's an aging workforce, so there are definitely more people retiring than people joining the industry. A lot of people say that's a disaster and a crisis, and I don't really share that view. I think it's a good thing. I think the bigger the constriction on the supply, the more that all the pest control companies can charge customers, and the more that all the people in the industry can get paid. So I think it's a good thing if there's a skill shortage and a labour crisis.
Yeah, it's supply and demand, isn't it?
Yeah, it puts everybody in the industry in a more favourable position as regards supply and demand, in my opinion, versus if we do succeed in bringing in 2,000 trainees straight away, all we'll achieve is to put depressionary pressure on the the pay and what you guys can charge, etc. In my view, of course, you got to balance that. And we do need fresh blood in the industry, but I don't think it's a crisis or a big problem to the industry that we're struggling for workers. I think it's an opportunity to elevate pest control on par with all the other skilled trades that customers deal with.
No, I definitely agree. It's obviously it is a challenge for the industry, but I don't think it's panic mode though. I think we'll be fine. But we just look for ways to try and attract more people to the industry. But Jasmine's got a few questions for you. She has it off LinkedIn. She says, did you find recruitment as a whole has changed massively since the COVID times?
It has for me. I think specifically as regards working remotely being very normal now, whereas I think previously, prior to COVID, most of my working life had been in offices, at a desk, etc. And I think COVID changed that in terms of how people work in certain roles and where, etc.
I think it moved the world on about. They reckon it moved the world on about 60 years. They reckon all this remote working was in the future. It pushed the world on a little bit.
Correct. Yeah, I think so. And then, there was an absolute sea change over COVID because the government printed a lot of money and threw it into the economy. And then there was a huge boom. And, around that sort of time, I think there was so many jobs about, there was so many employers hiring, etc. And then, things have probably settled a bit from there in terms of businesses finding it a little bit harder with some of the tax regulations, etc., coming in and increasing their costs on that, etc., and customers tightening their belt. So it probably has been straight after COVID a boom, and then a steadier period where businesses are, a lot of them, taking stock, I think, rather than growing at quite such rapid pace. And in the UK, massive amounts of mergers and acquisitions. And I was saying the other day to somebody, I looked through the list of what were the sort of medium-sized pest control servicing businesses that we were dealing with week in, week out a few years ago, and almost all of them have been bought now. They've almost all been bought by whether it be various groups or investors from around the world. So that's been a huge change, I'd say, over the last sort of 5 years in the industry, has been that change, and companies being acquired and merging and all that stuff, and new companies springing up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of all this buying up companies. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's the business it is. It is what it is. Some of the big boys want it in. So
yeah, exactly. I don't think necessarily that many people really understand it. So it depends who's doing the acquiring. If it's the private equity houses, they're working on, I would imagine, a deal cycle of something like 3 to 7 years to buy these businesses, make them more valuable and flip them again. But then you've got others who are actually
it seems to be changing their tune and making these groups and letting them all run as they were, all these different names and stuff. Rather than stuffing them all into one company, they seem to be keeping the name.
Possibly lessons have been learned in the industry from, I think it was Rentokil bought Terminix in North America, and it was a disaster specifically because they didn't plan the integration correctly and they didn't execute the integration correctly. So it may be that the people who are active by UK pest control companies are working on that in the background and want to get that right before they bring things under one banner. But I don't know, I might be completely off the mark on that.
Well, they managed to do it in America, but here they had to the CMA said no. They said it was a monopoly, didn't they? Here.
Yeah, well, that was a specific issue when Rentokil wanted to buy Mighty, which became Virgo.
Yeah.
And actually, I think a nonsense, to be honest, because even if you put the Rentokil and Virgo together, they still haven't got a monopoly. They still haven't got a monopoly anyway. For the not to the extent of the Competition and Markets Authority need to worry about, in my opinion. But I don't make the rules.
No, exactly. But Mighty still exists. Because I've got a mate who messaged me saying, not a pest controller. He says, I'm working for a company called Mighty doing cleaning.
Yeah, they do. They're Mighty.
I messaged him back saying, they're a pest control company. I said, I didn't know. They're a facilities company, aren't they? Basically.
Yeah, Mighty have been and are a multidisciplinary business. So they'll have like one of the businesses was the pest control business, but they've got numerous other service lines.
It's not something I've ever seen on the road. I've never seen anyone from Mighty or the name about anywhere. I'm still relatively new, see.
Yeah, I mean they're more Mighty. You'll see them more in a general sense on, excuse me, the large government sector and commercial sector and facilities management contracts and stuff like that. A lot of their work is within.
Okay, but no, that's
that's been a significant change for sure. The rate of pace of companies in pest control being acquired, and I think that cycle will continue now, because what I'm seeing is some very, very capable people starting new businesses, and those businesses will then be grown and then sold again on the next cycle. So that's just how it goes. Yeah, of course. But I think a good opportunity and a good time in the industry for people to have that entrepreneurial spirit and develop and grow new companies and existing companies. Where there's change, there's always going to be opportunity within that for people to do well.
Well, it definitely is, but at the minute, everything's up in the air, isn't it? A lot of companies are scared to take people on as well because of the way the economy is and the way the government keep bringing new taxes up and everything. A lot of them, like supermarket, usually take on a lot of people at Christmas, don't they? Temps.
Yeah.
They're not. A lot of them ain't taking any on. Right. So much to do with the the rights that temp workers have, and full-time workers. They've got the same rights. So a lot of shops are a bit stuck in what to do.
Yeah, well, they're making it. There was something called the Agency Workers Regulation, which was there to basically ensure that temporary workers were afforded the same rights and protections as PAYE permanent employees.
Yeah.
And what we've got now under the current Labour government is, because this is the thing. So to present, people, everybody who starts a new job is in practice and reality on a 2-year probation period, because under the employment law as it stands, employers only need to give an employee 1 week's notice within their first 2 years, and that's been changed now to give people a lot more a lot more rights as an employee from day one. So whereas before employers could hire people and kind of check them out through a probation period, now they're incurring quite a lot of responsibilities towards that employee from day one. So that'll be a change.
That's probably it. That is, but
but it's still for the majority of pest control companies above a certain size, they're still ploughing ahead with wanting to hire more people.
Good.
And it makes sense. It makes sense because the kind of margins that they're making on technicians is significant. So if you look at like the construction industry in the UK as a whole, typical margins for companies, low single-figure percentages. A pest control servicing business run correctly, 35%, 40% essentially.
That's good.
So it's an industry where it makes sense. It makes sense to people to keep hiring more technicians as long as they can provide them with sufficient work and get them going, because it's profitable to those companies to do that.
No, you're definitely right. It is if you've got the right, if you've got a lot bigger. But then some of the big boys don't make as much as you think as well. It's weird, isn't it?
Do you mean the companies in terms of their financial results, or do you mean?
Some of them. But it probably looks not a lot to us, but to them it's billions. It is.
Yeah, and that can vary as well. It depends what your motives are in terms of are the motives to make a business saleable and get the best price to sell it, which could be very different to other motives to to make it profitable or make it a good place to work or make it anything really. It depends what the motivations are.
That's true. That is.
Yeah.
So Jasmine's got another good question that I think it's a hard right. So here you go. Is there a set percentage of annual salary that pest control companies should expect to pay for recruitment, or does it vary too much to say on that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So, I mean, within the recruitment industry as a whole in the UK, the figures would generally be within the range of 10% to 20%. There can be some variation outside of that, but that's broadly speaking the range in the recruitment market as a whole. So it would fall within that, but the exact figure and arrangement will be based on a few different factors, such as the nature of how they want to work, if they want to retain a recruitment partner to work as an extension of their team, or if they want something with less commitment, where perhaps they may or may not want to hire somebody at some point. So there's different considerations within that, but it would broadly be within the range of 10% to 20% in recruitment in general, and in pest control in the UK, probably more like 10% to 15% typically.
Okay. So what do you think, like the average RSPH level 2 award in pest management? What's the average salary then for a tech, or does that vary on the company?
Yeah, so that will vary based on a few factors. One of those factors would be the geographical location. So within the UK itself, there's quite a lot of regional differences and variations. So, for example, a salary that's a good salary and good offer in Liverpool, and no disrespect to Liverpool, I haven't picked that particular city out, especially other than it's in the north. A good salary in Liverpool that's highly attractive, and you'll probably get decent people interested. In London, it will be not a very good salary and not really of interest to people. So, I mean, broadly speaking, for qualified level 2 techs, there has been quite considerable salary inflation in recent years. So at present, I would say outside of London, you're probably looking at something within the range of 30,000 to 32,000 as a baseline to start attracting kind of good level 2 techs, and some of them will be on higher than that, and you get some that are on lower as well. But that, broadly speaking, outside of London, that would be the sort of range. And then in London itself, you're not really getting any decent level 2 techs for less than 35k as a minimum.
I suppose it's so expensive to live there as well, isn't it? And travel around it. Is that why? Or
yeah, I think salary is an interesting one. I think they're ultimately, in my opinion, led solely and wholly by supply and demand. So it's a direct reflection of what that person can get for their labour in the market. And I think where a lot of companies have perhaps struggled over the years is they've been looking at some sort of formal schedule of rates or historical salary bandings, etc., and looking at that as the basis of what they want to pay or think they should pay, etc. And it's just explaining to people that in the nicest sense that's utterly irrelevant, and the only thing that is relevant is the supply and demand today. So companies they'll know whether they're paying not very well, reasonably, or quite well. And the reason they'll know is if their job offers are being accepted pretty much all of the time without fail, then they're paying probably a bit high. If they're mainly being accepted, then they're paying probably about right. And if they're having a lot of job offers not accepted, then that'll be the indicator that probably not really offering something which is piquing people's interest. And I guess it relates back again to the excuse me, the more jobs than people situation overall, in respect to the fact that, you know, there's not many good, well, there's very few good level 2 techs who are sat at home waiting for a job and can just start the job straight away. So, you know, in most cases, if you're going to hire a good level 2 tech, you're going to hire them by attracting them from other employment. And, you know, there's a difference there between what will attract somebody who just wants a job right now versus if you're trying to attract people, you know, who have already got positions, etc. Then you know, people can afford to be more selective about what pay they're wishing to work for and move for, etc. So, but I think, outside of London to the north, starting from 30 up to 32. In London, 34, 35, and then around the rest of the south, perhaps 32, 33, 34. Be pretty normal.
Okay. Do you reckon? I see obviously job adverts on the Facebook groups. Do you think the jobs that don't actually put the wage get a lot of interest? Because I've noticed a lot of them, they don't put how much you're going to get paid.
Yeah, look, it's hard to get it right all the time consistently. I had a thing today where I think I actually need some more information about a position before I put a salary on in haste. But I mean, that is a rarity, to be honest. And I think, people, I mean, this has always been a bit of a quandary for me to get my head around. And I remember a client I was working for, a hiring company, saying to me about a candidate that they were money hungry or money motivated. And I said, well, what do you think is the sole reason that we all go to work?
It is money.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, to feed your family. It's
So and in terms of experience and what I encounter, it's exceptionally rare to come across somebody who genuinely is not actually money motivated at all. In respect to what we do, people are, and rightly so. They've got there's a cost of living crisis out there at the moment, and I think I can empathise with people who take the view that the job itself is relatively similar from company to company to company. So you may as well work for whoever will pay you the most. I can totally empathise with that.
Yeah, no, I can't. I mean, obviously, if you were to live, you know, I live very rural, but a lot of people live in cities, and I bet there's a lot of companies paying, you know, some might pay the same, some might pay more. There might be competition for staff, technicians in them areas, you know.
To be honest, people get really worked up about this, and I'm not one of them. And I think the reason for that is, people are free to do what they wish to do, and there are a lot of people who are not paid particularly well, but actually, they've made absolutely the right decision to get into something, perhaps, and reap the benefits of a career down the line. It's not all about short-termism, and I think actually for people, especially earlier in their career trajectory, the pay in the immediate term is probably not going to be the number one thing that it would benefit them to consider, because there are dead-end jobs where you can't really do anything beyond it that will pay more than a trainee job in a field where you can actually further yourself and enjoy your working life. So in those situations, it's worth it for people to not take whichever job pays the most immediately. But on the other hand, I think especially in this day and age now, people are pretty, the information is relatively easily accessible for people as regards, roughly what sort of pay is on offer for people who do my sort of job in my sort of area. It's not hard for people to come by and learn that. So, I think that again has led to companies probably improving what they're offering people, because they're mindful as well. I think that people need to earn that money under the current circumstances, and that, you know, people won't stay at a place if they're being paid significantly less than similar positions elsewhere.
Or that, and you've probably got a I've heard it a few places. Or you've got to make them feel valued, where they like working for the firm.
Absolutely.
Or company benefits or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is gym membership? Is gym membership a thing in pest control? Giving people your staff gym membership? Is it not?
I haven't come across that in too many cases. I have in some cases, but I think there's a broader point there around, and some companies are really, really effective at this, in terms of what I would look at as team and staff retention, which isn't always solely about pay. Yes, of course, it's really beneficial for the purposes of retaining good people to pay well. But people, there's, you know, the emotional drivers that lead people to stay in jobs or move jobs, etc., are not linear and not black and white. It's all about feelings and how valued someone feels. And so the really savvy business owners will be, you know, highly effective at making their team feel loved and valued and on board, etc., in ways that are not necessarily a direct expense to the employer, you know. And it's more about the personal side of it, and, you know, encouraging people and retaining people through having that good rapport as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I work for, you know, commercial clients where I see some of them do stuff like they take them out on, like, you know, what they call these fun days out, things like that, having barbecues at dinner time, and you know, things like that to keep them engaged, things like that. So
great idea. I think one of the best examples I came across of that was a company who every year have a barbecue, and the managers and the owners, they serve the techs the food, and, you know, they're doing the serving. And a lot of those companies are also the really successful ones, where they're all about the fact that it's the technicians who are doing the day-to-day work and representing the company, etc., and that they're the best asset the company has, and to look after those guys and keep them happy and all that is you know, crucial, and a really important thing to focus upon.
Well, it is. A lot of times, if a load of people walk out the door, you've got these contracts, you kind of you can leave. What I'm saying is, if a load of people leave, it can put the business in danger, can't it, to a certain degree sometimes.
Yeah.
If you've got contracts to fulfill, but keep them happy, I suppose it's not easy to know how to do it.
It's not easy.
It's not an easy thing.
No. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say, you know, do this, do that. Of course, it's not that easy. It's not. But my point is, people, what motivates people to stay in and or leave jobs is not solely black and white about money. It isn't. I mean, that is often a big factor. But when people are phoning me saying I need a different job, etc., it's quite rarely because they are grossly underpaid. It's more commonly because of other factors. And things that businesses can address to improve their retention without necessarily incurring additional costs directly.
Okay, because one thing I've found with everyone, you know, likes to bash on these big companies, right? But one thing I've noticed about them is they offer amazing free training, like level 2 up to basically any course you want to do. They'll do it for you. They will.
Yeah.
Training's a big thing with these big firms. It is. It's not cheap, is it? These courses.
No, it's interesting. There's a few points that I've picked up on there, Sean, and one of them would be something that I've learned over the years in terms of the day-to-day. Because what I base my day-to-day and learning about the market on is feedback from technicians. And there's no correlation at all between size of company and what it's like to work there in terms of whether the feedback is good, bad, or indifferent. And what I mean by that is there are companies at the very biggest end of the spectrum who I get great feedback about, and companies at that bigger end of the spectrum that the feedback is consistently not so good about. And then that also applies to the smallest companies. So, but in terms of training, so I mean, typically what I tend to see a lot of is those big companies being excellent for people entering the industry, and gaining qualifications through that, gaining experience through that, and then their career paths could be internally or could indeed be externally at another business. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Again, is it actually that considerable an expense to the employer when you think about the margins on a tech and the benefit to the business of having a well qualified tech? Probably not, to be honest.
No, I agree with you. If you can get someone and upskill them to something, and they can do that work, and you get extra revenue, a lot more revenue, then it's worth it. Anything that makes the business potentially more money, a lot of businesses are willing to do.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. I had this recently again, and it's specifically Rentokil that it applies to, actually, in terms of how rapidly they do that training. And it confuses, every time it happens, it confuses me a bit, because I think, well, there's a kid here that's got 18 months experience and he's telling me he's a level 3 field biologist. Well, it's not possible, but actually on paper they are, because they've joined Rentokil and they've done the normal route of safe use for identifiers, level 2 pest management, and then they've done the certified advanced technician or BPCA field biologist stuff in a really short time frame. Which, I mean, I think there's aspects of that you can hold the certificate, but there's no substitute for field experience over a lengthy period. Like,
that's true.
I reckon most people of a certain academic intellect could pass these tests, but whether they're actually a hands-on expert or not, I think is a different matter, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that rapid.
Yeah, it can be. I know it can be there. I've not really come across that in too many other companies' instances, but I know with Rentokil we do that in some cases.
Yeah,
which is great. I think a lot of the people in the industry who have succeeded in various different fields, whether that be running their own businesses or whatever areas, have come from a starting point of joining one of those big businesses, benefiting from getting that training and certification experience and going from there. So, yeah.
But yeah, some interesting points there, George. Cheers for that, because you know far more. That's why I've got you on there, so people can learn.
I don't know about that. I try and learn. I mean, I just listen. I just listen to people, to be honest. I think, and that's the good thing about what I do day to day, is the opportunity to learn a lot about different parts of the industry from different people.
Well, you have a different perspective. Best perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. And I build up. It's interesting because I build up quite a good picture over a long period of when I'm constantly speaking to technicians, and you worked there. What's it like to work there? You work there. What's it like to work there? It's quite informative, because that's the other part of the job. This end is if I say to the employers, "What's it like to work at your company?" They're all going to say without fail, "It's fantastic," and it's this, and that. And I'd say the same about my company, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But again, it's when I say it's case by case for each person and which job and which company would suit them. It's good to know that and understand that, because some people like certain parts and aspects of the work, and other people like different things. So
that's a good point. Ask Pest Control, Jason, thanks for popping in. I know the answer to this one maybe, but Jasmine's got another question to ask. I think it's more in America. Is there much temporary usage within pest control? I know in America they do seasons where it's busy season, then they take them off. But is that a thing here? Because I obviously don't know about that kind of thing. Is temporary workers in pest control a thing?
Yeah, we did this once upon a time, specifically in relation to seasonal wasp work, where companies, throughout that height of the wasp season, had a requirement for more workers than they would do throughout the rest of the year. So yes, in relation to that, more broadly, technicians being employed on a temporary basis as opposed to a permanent basis is something that I'd quite often see amongst councils and local authorities. Often because they'll get their funding for a set period and it might not be for permanent headcount, but they do need a worker, so they'll have someone in on a temporary contract basis. But no, like broadly speaking, no, the overwhelming majority of positions that we deal with will be permanent and year round and full time.
Okay, yeah, this is still a good question, Jasmine, to ask is so if someone wanted to say they were looking for a job, what would be their best way of writing a CV, or if you're in America, a resume, even though we say resume?
Yeah.
What would you put on that? What would you put on that CV to try and give yourself the best chance of? Is there a particular style?
Yeah.
I know you can go on Canvas and get all these fancy ones now. Is there any kind of way to make yourself look better than other candidates?
So I think there's a lot of varied information about all this stuff online, so I'll try and keep it as simple as I can. So in terms of the actual formatting and the layout, I'd strongly recommend very simple. And what I mean by that is not using a lot of pictures and tables and graphs and columns. I'll keep it quite basic and simple in terms of format. In terms of what to put on there, so if you're somebody who wants to get into the industry and will be looking to join as a trainee and hasn't worked within the industry before, the number one thing I'll say to put on there is to actually put that on there, that you specifically want to get into this industry, and actually put that on there that I'm looking for an opportunity within the pest control industry. I'm interested in the industry because of X, Y, Z, etc. And the reason I recommend that is when you're going for trainee jobs, you want the reader to read that CV and think, here is somebody who actually wants to be a trainee pest control technician, as opposed to here is somebody who's just clicking every single trainee job they can find. You see what I mean? So that's the key thing there, is to tailor it. And because a CV doesn't need to be solely a list of experience and qualifications. It's ultimately your own personal sales document, if you like, around why it would be good for an employer to give you a job. So if you're going for a trainee pest control job, put it on there and be really specific about you actually want this industry and the reason that you're interested in it is X, Y, Z, and make it tailored and specific. For people that are already experienced professionals in the industry who are moving jobs or considering moving jobs, I think the best advice that I could give on that would be to look at your CV as not just a list of your duties and responsibilities, but actually your achievements and what you've done. So that could be anything. It could be I dealt with a very complex domestic rat job, which required me to use drainage investigatory tools and cameras, or it could be I dealt with some bird proofing work and had to install these various systems, or it might be I did heat treatments for bed bugs or whatever. I think it's and I'd imagine this applies around the world, that people are fairly aware of what a pest control technician job involves in terms of list of responsibilities. So like say you're a pest control technician at one of the major pest control companies, you don't need to put the duties on there that everyone knows. That's what you'll clearly have been doing. You can use that space to put on there. achievements and what you're proud of, and but I think it's also about getting key information onto a CV. So I'll often speak to people, and they'll have qualifications or certain skills that they've not included on there. So that would be, it's quite commonplace for people to put their pest control, their main qualification on. So they may put level 2 pest management, but then I'll speak to them and realise actually you've got IPAF as well, and you've got PASMA, and you've got marksman, and you might maybe you've got a firearms license and you can shoot foxes and deer or whatever it might be. Get all that on there. Get all that on there, and then in the actual bulk of your CV, I would include if you're someone who's got specialist skills, whether that be moles, whether that be bird proofing, falconry, rodent proofing, if you're someone who can pull kitchen units out and proof behind it and put it back, whatever it might be, put that on there, because I think a lot of people, they don't, they do themselves a disservice perhaps by not including some of their own attributes on their CV.
Tell you what, it's really good advice, because that would make you stand out. It really would, rather than just saying, I've got this level 2 and I've worked here and that's it. You are right. That's a much better read. That would be.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll then open up the next level of jobs, I would say, because in the job market, there's kind of 2 levels of jobs. There's your jobs where you just need level 2 to be willing to kick boxes, and there's your job, crack on. And then there's your other jobs where it is actually about root cause analysis and problem solving, and can you be a stakeholder manager with clients or whoever it might be, this sort of stuff. And there's I think for people that are looking to develop, it's good for them to include on their CV the different skills that they're proud of and that they enjoy. And people should also pursue what they enjoy. I think if you're somebody who really enjoys one aspect of the sector, go for it and seek to specialize in that. You
are right, because there is companies that literally deal in they've got like big bird divisions or big bird proofing. Some people absolutely love just bird proofing all day. So you're right. You can specialise. You can, like, there's heat treatment specialists just do heat treatment. There's loads.
Yeah, the bird work is, I think, really, really good area. It's definitely a profitable area in terms of margins compared to other aspects of pest control. And it's interesting because some of the biggest pest control companies can't service their own bird work. They don't have the bird proofers, so they sub it out. Which I was like, wow, when I realised that. I thought, why do they do that?
Yeah, I got told a story when Mark Mosley came on, but he's been on The Apprentice.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the company name. I'm not saying the company name, but they paid somebody X amount of thousands.
Yeah,
and then the bigger company charged $100,000, and the guy found out, what? I only charged $10,000. Like the markup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about those particular figures, but yeah. Well, the thing is, what you got to bear in mind is, if you're Mr. Client and you how many times have you ever had to price a big bird job? Like, never. Exactly. So you don't know if it's $30,000 or $80,000. It could be,
Oh, certainly.
So
you're right. You are, but no, there's all these specialist areas of pest management. You don't have to just do general pest, do you?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And I think, like I say, different people enjoy different parts of that.
They do, yeah.
They do, and that's where it's case by case. Like, some people really like the proofing work, some people don't. Some people, all they want to do is fly a Harris Hawk, and that's what they want to do. And then are the jobs there where it's solely doing that, or are they also going to do some pest control, and are they happy with that? And these are all the considerations that come up.
Exactly. Is there any massive mistakes people make on these CVs that you've seen? Is there anything you shouldn't put on there? Basically, because I don't know this, but you don't, with a pest control job, if you're qualified, you don't need to go back to your school days, do you, and put all of that on there, do you? You don't need to go all the way back.
No, you don't, do you? I wouldn't say that you do, no. So
I've not filled out the last CV I filled out. was my first job at 19, dead end job, and
Yeah.
my next one was to be on the board of directors of the MPTA. So I think I'd done all right because I got on the board, but that I had to ask a few people what to do. I had to Google it.
I think, to be honest, at the moment in the UK, if you are already a technician and you're qualified and you're experienced, you don't need to write a CV particularly thoroughly to get job interviews. If you just put on there that you are a qualified technician and put your experience,
yeah,
you know, you're going to get the job interviews anyway, I'd say. But where the CV kind of details and information is more important, I think, is for trainees if they're trying to stand out. Well, it's not actually been the case this last week or two, but generally speaking, if you advertise for trainees, you'll get a lot more applicants than if you advertise for qualified, experienced people, just because the pools are bigger. Okay. So the reason I say that is if you're going for trainee jobs, you might end up with your application being one of quite a few different applications, and that's why I say if you make it clear on there, you know, why you're applying to that particular job, and to just spell out on there that you want to get into that specific sector, and that'll be quite advantageous for people to get those opportunities.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thanks, Adam, for popping in. He says, you obviously, he says nationals will take on anyone on there, literally don't care, as long as they can kick a few boxes about the majority of the time. He's previously worked for a national before. Yeah. He's a good guy, he is.
Again, this is you know, it's not, to be honest, it's not applicable to group all the nationals together, because within that you've got some that are, in my opinion, very high service standards, and some that are perhaps not as high. So that will vary, but I mean, I think there is that side to the industry for sure, which is the jobs which are commercial contracts that have been won based on competing quite heavily on price. So therefore, the only way that you make that pay is to get a tech to smash out quite a lot of volume per day, which is fine. That is what it is. But obviously that then is a different job role and focus to somebody who is interested in fixing the problems and doing the root cause analysis, as opposed to thinking I need to be back in the van in X minutes to get on to the next job. So there is a difference there. And it's not to say that they can't marry up together, because they obviously do, but I think on the other hand, and this is the other thing, is a lot of the guys who, I was going to say moan, which would be unfair, but who work in those box kicking jobs, do they actually want to go and do the domestics? Do they actually want to go and do that? And you know, probably not, to be honest, in a lot of cases. So
no, you've got a good point. But also, equally, with that question, I think we briefly touched on it earlier. If a pest control company wants to find good technicians, good staff, what could they do to position themselves the best, apart from just pay the highest money? You know, because wording their jobs better, like the job descriptions, wording how they actually, because a lot of them look the same to me. I read them. I'm not obviously not looking for a job, but I just read them. I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I would look at that from the reverse standpoint, which is who are the people that they're targeting? What's their target audience? Which is good technicians, basically. And a lot of those good technicians are going to be in jobs and not going to be active job seekers. So they probably want to be thinking about, firstly, how is this opportunity of employment going to be brought to the attention of the people that we need it in front of? Are we going to restrict that exclusively to the people who are applying for jobs online and searching for jobs online? You know, does that run a risk of attracting more of the people who are kind of regular applicants and job seekers, rather than being a bit more broad with the view of who you're looking to recruit and attract? But I'll be thinking about what are those people's motivations, the people that we want to attract and we want to get on board. Obviously, yes, they want to earn good money and the pay. And I know you mentioned earlier about being transparent around that. But it's also, I think it's also. Sorry,
Jasmine did say this. I didn't mean it. I do believe in salary transparency.
Yeah.
As otherwise, it could be wasting someone's time. She put.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's nuances even within that I've observed over the years, such as, for example, company A might say the job pays maximum 32,000, for example.
Yeah.
And then person comes along, interviews for the job. The company really wants them. They want the job too, but actually they can only take it if they want to pay 33.5.
Yeah.
And, it's often commercially viable and sensible for the company to pay that, even though they'd said it was 32. So it's not always exact for those sorts of reasons, I think. But they should be open around that and the bandings, because there will be different levels for people based on how much experience they have, etc. as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, when they're thinking about their employer brand and attracting people, there's loads of stuff within that. There's especially if they're quite a sizable business, they're going to have quite a sizable team of staff already in the business. Those guys will have their own networks and friends, etc. Perhaps there's somebody they can recommend as a trainee to join who wants to get into it, that sort of thing. But when it comes to I think experienced hires, employers, they've got a few different options and routes they can go down. Some of them seek to do what I do themselves, because it's not rocket science. Ultimately, all I'm doing is phoning technicians, and if you're prepared to sort of sit there and spend the time phoning people and building lists, etc., then it can be done by companies themselves. A lot of them don't really want to do that because it's time consuming. Yeah, very time consuming. It's like anything, I suppose. Like, if there was a leak, I potentially could get some tools and sort that out, but I wouldn't. I'd call a plumber, because that's what they do, I think. So it's similar. So they can get support from specialist recruiters, but if they're doing that, I think it's important that they're working with recruiters who are able to delve deeper into the pool of people overall, because in this day and age, companies are normally well capable of putting a job advert out and fielding the applicants, etc. So if they're using recruitment companies, they need to be using recruiters who are able to go above and beyond that and actually attract people who are not applicants and not job seekers.
You potentially.
Yeah, I'm not the only recruiter about. We're in quite a fortunate position at the moment, I think, where touch wood, there's not really a shortage of work, so which is great because it allows me to be really open and honest with clients and not necessarily just put the client on a pedestal and do as you're asked, and that boils down to things like, can you fill this job for us, George? It's this, that, and the other. And if the answer is, well, actually, with respect, to attract the people that we want, you need to be paying a bit more, I can tell them that. And if they don't like that, then that's fine. There's plenty of other jobs to recruit for. But
you're in asbestos too, aren't you?
Yeah, so we do. Liam and myself do asbestos consultancy, which is people that do surveys for asbestos.
Do you get them jobs then? Yeah.
Yes.
Like you do with pest control, just asbestos as well. Okay.
Exactly the same. So it is recruitment consultancy for the asbestos consultancy industry, the pest control industry, and then within that, the bird proofing and the falconry. Because obviously the jobs are are very distinct and separate and different based upon whether a company needs a pest control technician, which could be in a van or could be on foot, a bird proofer, a rodent proofer, a falconer, etc. So there's lots of different specialisms within that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, where I can typically help people is, and companies when they're hiring, is any instances where a more proactive approach to identifying and attracting the right workers is required, which is often perhaps where companies have tried putting an advert out and not necessarily had the right results from that, whatever it might be. Or indeed, it's cases where pest control company owner is ending up spending that long trying to source and hire staff that it would have made more sense for them to get on with running other parts of the pest control business and get someone else to do the donkey work of phoning technicians.
Okay, yeah.
So,
but yeah,
it's not easy. There's no absolute solution to it at the moment. But I think, and I mean, in respect to the fact that there is a dearth of workers in the industry, and that the demand for skilled people cannot be met by the current supply. But on the flip side, if you're a technician or whatever whatever job role you're undertaking in the industry, it's quite likely that that there'll be demand for your skills, and it's very often the case that the recommendation I make to people is actually I'd recommend you stay where you are and stay in your current job.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's an interesting take, because obviously that shows how authentic and you care, because a lot of people are just like, no, leave, you need this job, It shows you've got good morals when it comes to getting the person the right job, and just saying stay in the job you're in.
There's a few considerations with that. I can't recommend to people to go to a new job unless I can recommend that in good faith, and I genuinely think that. So there's that, but also it's the problems associated with somebody taking the wrong job can be quite significant. So it's important. And I think in this day and age now, people do change jobs quite willy-nilly, and it's not quite the big decision and consideration that it would have been in previous generations, etc. But actually,
does that happen a lot in pest control? Do people jump from job to job sometimes? Do they?
Yeah, I would say so. It's not uncommon it's certainly not uncommon for someone in pest control to have worked for 3 different pest control companies in 3 years, or 4 in 4 years, or 5 in 5 years. That wouldn't be uncommon.
Okay.
It'd be unusual, but it wouldn't be uncommon.
Would that be a red flag? Would that be a red flag on the CV though? I wouldn't it? They wouldn't be on the CV.
Look, I mean, I'm not gonna. I would never outright, with no consideration or thought, discriminate against somebody because they've had several jobs. Because for all I know, company 1 may have closed down. Company 2 may have been acquired and whatever, and there can be obviously different reasons for that, etc. And it's not necessarily always fair to look at somebody and say, right, you had a short time, so that must be your fault. It might not be. But if I'm honest, it's not good, is it? If people are really jumpy and they're constantly moving jobs, then with respect, it's unlikely that it's the employer every single time, and there's more likely a different common denominator there. But take people as you find them, I think, and different people will leave different jobs for different reasons, and it's not to say that they're not going to succeed in the future if they've had a lot of short employment stints.
They just might not have found the right place. You might not fit in, and
as
well, there's also that. There's that bit. You might feel that you don't fit in, or I don't know. But you are right. Treat everyone. They might be. You might take them on. They might settle at your place. It might be you might take them on, and they'll be a tech for years to come. That might be the one they like.
Yeah, you do. I do still see, obviously, a lot of people who have those long tenures at companies, and it's not, to be honest, it's not necessarily the best thing for me to have noticed, but I think more recent generations are moving away from that long-term employment mindset and that job for life mindset, and are much more willing to move jobs more freely and easily than would have been the case in the past. So yeah, but I suppose what I'm coming back to on that is, for me, these, what we're dealing with here are really important considerations, because for the employers, it's enormous. The impact of how successful they are in hiring is huge for the business, and for the person and people moving jobs and taking up new roles, etc. It's their career that you're dealing with, and it's their life that you're dealing with. So it needs to be something that's carefully considered, and that they're taking with a view to it being something for the long term. So that's probably where I'll end up, saying to people, and it's more often in a case of where they're saying to me they would like to leave their employment because of one particular reason, and then I turn around and say, well, have you actually talked to your boss about that, and just put that out there and been open about it, and the amount of times when actually that's then been resolved, and that person, the best thing for them is then to remain in their employment.
Well, they're probably a bit scared to do that. Might think, oh, they'll just get rid of me.
No, that's right. So, sorry, I've lost my train of thought slightly. It's been rather a long day, but
no, you're fine. You are.
Yeah, I think it's a different consideration if somebody's out of work, for example, and they're just looking for a start relatively swiftly. Then in those instances, I would recommend to people pick up wherever employment's there and crack on. But when it's people who are bit more careful and considered about the direction their career's taking, and they're not really like a full-on active job seeker, but they would like to understand and hear about opportunities externally. Those are more the people that I'm typically speaking to day to day. You do sometimes get people who are simply out of work and want a job, but they're rare, to be honest.
Okay, there's some good information given out tonight. You've helped a lot of people.
Thank you.
Where would you like to see pest management go? Have you got any thoughts on pest management?
Yeah. So
anything in general.
Right, in general. So what I honestly think in general is that pest management is a massively diverse and really interesting skilled trade, and just a brilliant opportunity for any I was going to say youngsters, but people of any age who are perhaps changing career or indeed starting their working life, to get into and to pursue a career within. I think what would I like to see? I'd probably like to see a bit more respect, to be honest, for pest management, and I'd probably like pest management to be perceived on par with all of the other skilled trades, basically, and on all aspects of it, from pay. I'd like pest control techs to be paid as much as bricklayers. I'd like or electricians or whatever it might be. And I don't actually see why they can't be, because from my perspective, pest control technicians are playing a critical, and the whole industry, you're playing a massive role, a really important role in protecting public health. You're protecting the environment. You're dealing with materials that are potentially dangerous and need to be dealt with in the correct manner. This is a skilled professional trade, basically. So I would like to see a little bit more perception change, perhaps, from away from that kind of archaic, the rat catcher type thing, and more towards like a modern science professional, which is where I consider pest management sits.
No, you are right, but I was talking about a while ago to another a pest controller for America
Mm.
about why we aren't on the same level as builders, gas engineers. And do you know what he
Yeah.
said? It's because we're not under the eye of like built. When you're building, doing
Mm.
someone's house, you're under the
Yeah.
law, aren't you, of
Of the
compliance
regulator.
regulator. So he
Yeah.
says you've not got them breathing over your neck. He
Well,
says
I think
if they were,
yeah.
he says if they were, we get paid more. He says a lot of it's down
That's
to
correct.
that.
That's correct. So
Just like I know,
yeah.
we did a job where we had to go
Mm.
and we sort the mice out, and
Mm.
it was to replace the pipe on the washing thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It was £400. I was like, what?
Yeah.
One
So
visit.
oh, so that, I think, to be honest, that relates to like a barrier to entry in the industry in terms of how hard is it to start a pest control company, how onerous are the regulatory requirements, etc. And then that then leads to how much supply there is in the market, and then from there what the prices are, etc. And like, it's only my personal opinion, I think the bar is too low in pest control. And the reason I think that is, like, for example, if I really wanted to start a pest control company, I can get a safe use course, get a website, and crack on, basically. And I think, is that right necessarily when there's an opportunity there, given the fact that the substances and actives being dealt with can be risky, etc., etc., etc.? Is that an opportunity to actually raise that a bit and constrict the supply as a result, and get customers paying pest control in line with other skilled trades as a result of that? Is that even possible? I don't know, to be honest. But
it would be nice, but it's people much higher up than me in charge of that stuff.
I don't think it will. I don't think the situation will change significantly on that, to be honest, because I know there's obviously been some changes recently, etc. Around that, and again,
but it's not that much of a big deal
no, it's not.
to do them.
And it's just a bit toothless, isn't it? Because if you don't want to do it, and you don't want to do any of that CPD, and you just want to get a safe use course once every 5 years, you can, and it doesn't.
You can do that as long as you're not part of a trade body. You can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're just in a, you wouldn't even need to be in a CPD body. There are people out there that just do that.
But I mean, as it relates to an actual barrier to entry to operate in professional pest management in the UK, there is almost no barrier to entry whatsoever, really, other than a safe use cert, which is very simple to get. So, would it be beneficial to raise that barrier to entry and therefore constrict the supply and raise the prices and get pest control on par with other skilled trades? And could you do it? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it will happen.
You're a good point there. I think this might be connected. Adam's just put in the chat. What's your take on actual wage structure for technicians, George? Do you think they're totally undervalued with how many risks associated, whether it be on site, servicing products, diseases, etc.? I was on 16k a year when I started. I was doing silo cleaning all over the country, egg nest removals on high roofs, etc. So many risks associated. Just interested to see a view from a recruiter's perspective.
Well, I think the first thing I'd say on that is every single technician who goes out there and does the actual hard work has my respect, and I think they earn every single penny that they get. I really do. Yeah. Do I agree with anyone being paid 16k? Absolutely not. I think that probably relates to some years ago, to be honest. I know
it was a few years ago, it wasn't? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the minimum wage now is probably, I think, full time something around not far off 25,000 now. Yeah. Maybe it's a bit more than that. No, look, I think I don't personally worry about this, and the reason I don't is I think the market sorts it out. So nobody's compelled to remain in a job at all. So anyone who's not particularly happy with their pay is absolutely free to if they think they're underpaid, they're absolutely free to go and get their real value elsewhere.
That's true.
So I don't worry about that too much. I do come across instances that are just egregious. Like there was someone last year who I spoke to this person and they told me what they were being paid. And I won't go into the specifics, but it was very modest. And I said to this person, I think we should be aiming for an increase of 10,000 on salary from like low. I think there were maybe 24k there on. I said I think you should be aiming for about 34.
Okay.
And they managed to get that, but that's an unusual situation. It's quite rare to come across people who are actually egregiously underpaid in the market. There are some companies that still do it, but I think it's counterproductive, to be honest, because you're never gonna attract or retain the people that you actually need if you're going to pay rates that just don't really pique anyone's interest particularly. So no, I think employers incur a lot of risk as well, and it's fine to say, the employer makes money and I should get more of that in pay. And in some cases it's accurate, but on the other hand, I've known that for a long time, that if you want someone to pay you, if you want to work for somebody else and you want them to pay you £1, you're going to have to earn them £3. That's just how it is. So I think my answer has probably changed, especially in recent years. I'm finding now there's a lot more of the technicians now are better paid, I think, and more fairly paid than was the case even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So no, on balance, look, I'd have to say no, and solely because it's a free market, and anyone who's not happy with their pay is absolutely free to go and get their real value elsewhere.
No. Just thought I'd add it in because Adam mentioned it, but he also put, that 16k job, it was years back, because I generally think if we want to bring youngsters through who show genuine interest and stick to it, they need to up the wage structures even for starters.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem actually. That's a specific problem as it relates to pest control, and that is that there's no. I don't think it's particularly viable really to pay green trainees much more than money. No, I think paying the minimum wage or in and around that makes sense. And that person at that point, they're not necessarily doing the role because it is the highest paying employment they can get right then. It's because it's a career, and I think people do get that they're going to start on the lower pay as they're learning and training, and increase that as they gain more experience and qualifications. But
it's like doctors. A lot of them start off low, then eventually some of them will be on a lot more. They will.
Yeah. Look, I think it had. To be honest, it has for some considerable years been an industry where the pay perhaps hasn't been the best in amongst other industries and sectors, and people I think choose pest management for other reasons and other considerations rather than specifically the pay. But it would definitely benefit us, and it's a good thing that the salary inflation. I know it's a pain for employers, but it's a good thing, because if we didn't have a situation where the decent techs are now pretty much all on something starting with a 3, then we'd be losing more and more and more of them to other industries. So that's a good thing. And like I say, people in this industry, it's challenging and important work and hard work, and they deserve to be well paid, and I'm pleased to see it increasing.
It's good to hear it. It's good. It's been really fascinating. I mean, the chat, I've had loads of comments tonight. A lot of the time I don't get anyone talking, but I've had the chat going loads. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. It's something different, and then I hope everyone's gained something from it, because I certainly have. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's all. It's just nice to come on and have a chat. And I know it's a different, it's a different perspective to others.
It's good. It's what I want. It's trying to get more different perspectives.
Yeah, but no, look, Sean, I absolutely love what I do in the job, and it's great, and it's challenging and difficult at times. But ultimately, I'm speaking with people who are furthering themselves, whether it be taking on a new opportunity and developing their employment career, or people who are growing a business, or even growing a business to sell a business, and they're going to bring it all to fruition, and that sort of stuff is great. And yeah, I think for me, where we've probably had success over the years has been, it's not bums on seats, it's not one size fits all. It's very much for the candidates, it's about what are their motivations and what would suit them as an individual, and for the companies, it's about how can we go above and beyond just the churn of the same job applicants, and how can we identify and attract the people who might not be job seekers, but they might be the people that we need to take this business forward. So it's a constant challenge and really enjoyable.
That's good. It's good to hear that. Do you want to give your business a plug for people if anyone's interested that listens?
Yeah, thank you. So the business is simply G&L Recruitment Consultants, which is G George and L Liam, who I work with. And I'm quite active on LinkedIn and Facebook. If anyone wants to find me regarding their own career development and jobs, or indeed regarding their own business and team and adding technicians, or indeed surveyors or other individuals to the team, then probably best to find me on there.
Yeah, no, it's been good. He's definitely active. You can always get hold of George. You can.
I've got the phone chained to my wrist the last 13 years in this line of work.
Definitely. Yeah. But yeah, Frank. Also, everyone, if you're want to log your CPD with whoever you're with Basis Prompt, you won't be able to get a code for this specific episode, but everywhere else where you can self-register, you'll be able to self-register your points. So yeah, thanks everyone, and thanks George. I'll end the stream.
Thank you very much, Sean.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Definitely. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.